Hello, friends, and welcome to The Practical Church Musician, a podcast of practical tools and ideas for volunteer and part-time church musicians everywhere. I'm Dr. Sam Fleming. Each week, we explore the real joys and challenges of serving as a church musician, whatever your denomination or background. From building your musical skills to managing the administrative side of a program, this show is here to support your growth and strengthen the work you do for your congregation. Thank you for being here today. Hello, and welcome back to the Practical Church Musician podcast. We are here at episode 5, and we are just plugging along with lots of topics related to church music. Last week, I shared an introduction to getting started on the organ and what you needed to know when asked to play in a pinch. This week, we are going to go down a similar path, but instead of the organ, we are going to step into the world of leading a choir, specifically a church choir. Maybe you are being asked to lead, or maybe you want to lead, or you want to start a church choir at your church. Today's episode is going to focus on what you need to do when you get into this position. We are going to cover the basics of what needs to happen before your first rehearsal, fundamentals of running a choir rehearsal, and how to get your choir to its first performance at church. If you want ideas of long-range planning for your choir, I invite you to go back and check out episode 3, titled Maximize Your Summer, Build a Thriving Program, where I take a deeper dive into long-range vision for your choir, your music program. And I feel like that episode is going to be very helpful to you if you're looking for longer-range planning ideas. But with that all in mind, let's go ahead and dive in. Getting to the first rehearsal as you start on this new adventure may seem like a daunting task. Where should you even start? I hope these tips will give you some ideas of where to direct your attention so that you can get ready for your first rehearsal. To get started, I'm going to talk through some things that you should assess as soon as possible and ask people who may know the answers to these questions when applicable. So the first thing here is to look at your choir roster. Who is currently in your choir? Who else can you invite to join? Does your choir have any section leaders, a choir librarian, choir president, etc.? If you're starting a choir, you're probably starting from scratch, so you get to go and find your choir members to join your choir. The second thing to consider is rehearsal space and time. Where does your choir rehearse and at what time? If it's at the church, in what room? Do you maybe meet at someone's home or somewhere else? How long are rehearsals currently? And what are people used to? What has worked well or not so well for your particular choir or situation? Third, you want to look at what materials you have available. Do you have folders, pencils, any other sort of materials? For folders, I highly recommend numbering each folder, then assigning each choir member a folder. Then number each piece of music. It makes it easier to keep track of when you get into the thick of rehearsals. Fourth, you want to look at your music. Do you have an existing music library? If so, where is it stored? Do you need a key to access it? Do you have a budget to purchase new music? What music has the choir recently done? What difficulty level of music has the choir recently done? What other music resources do you have? Number 5 is related to your accompanist. Who is your accompanist if you don't know? And if you don't, you should probably figure that out soon. What skill level do they have? How much time do they need to get music before they are ready to play for rehearsal or a performance? Next, you want to look at instrumentalists. Do you have instrumentalists in your congregation that you can use for pieces of music with additional instrumentation? If so, what skill level do they have, and how much time do they need to prepare? Lastly, look at the calendar. How often is the choir expected to perform? Are there any additional services or programs within a service that the choir will need to prepare for? The Practical Church Musician Podcast is brought to you today by the Practical Church Musician Podcast. That's right. No fancy sponsor, no mystery promo code. Just me, the host, Dr. Sam Fleming, talking to you about the show. Look, here's the thing. Making a podcast about practical church music is, itself, a fairly impractical use of time. So, if you've made it this far, you're clearly the kind of person who appreciates that irony, and the kind of person who'd probably enjoy subscribing. So here's the ask. Hit follow, hit subscribe, whatever your podcast app calls it. It's free. It takes 4 seconds, and unlike most church volunteers, it requires zero training and no awkward conversation with your music director about why you missed last week. I'll keep making the episodes. You just have to tap one button. That's the whole sponsorship deal. And if you're feeling really generous, leave the show a review. Now, this has been an ad for the thing you're already listening to, so let's get back to the show. Once you've taken a quick assessment of where things are at, your next task will be music selection. And this can be the fun part, or it can be daunting for other people. So hopefully these tips will help you get on the right track with selecting music. When considering music to program, there are a myriad of things to consider. And I like to think of a Venn diagram, where you have the different circles that overlap with each other with things that are in common. And I try, with all these different categories, I try to pick pieces that fit into all the circles and that everything overlaps, at least to some level. Now, it's not going to be perfect, but at least that's what I'm striving for. So these categories, in no particular order, are what I usually use to pick a piece of music. First is the topic, theme, or scripture for a particular Sunday, or maybe it's a particular season, time of year, Advent, Christmas, Easter. I use those examples a lot, but those are the big ones. Then I look at the level of difficulty of the music. Is the music singable? What is the voicing? Is it 4-part SATB? Is it beyond that SSATTB? Is it 2-part, 3-part? And then I look at the voice leading. I sing through the music itself. And sometimes you can only get a preview of the music from certain publishers. But as you look at the preview and the pages of it, go through, or if you can, find a recording and say, okay, does this sound like something that we could pull off? Does it fit within my voice okay? And will it fit within the voice of the choir okay? Then show the music to your accompanist as well. Ask them, hey, how's the accompaniment part here? Is it doable? How much time do you need to prepare, etc.? My third category that I consider is what educational or musical principles do I want to teach the choir with this piece? Now, church choir is not primarily an educational institution in the sense of that you're preparing music because it's for the sake of learning it. You're preparing it for worship. But that being said, consider what skills you want to build with your choir, and does a particular piece of music help you accomplish that? Fourth is the quality of the repertoire. Does this music have merit? Now, I'm going to say something, and I will repeat it again in a little bit. This is really important. Not everything that is free that you find on the internet is good music. And not everything that you pay for from a publisher is good music. And this is where you have to develop your own ear. You have to listen to lots of choral music. You have to seek out other directors in your area who are experienced and who can help you identify good quality pieces if you're just getting started. But the quality of the music is really important here as well. It's just like sitting down for a fine meal. Occasionally a piece that might be considered the dessert at the end is good. But lots of times with a meal, you want to have your main course. And you want to make sure that that main course is high quality. Lastly, I consider what is the appeal of this music. Now, in the academic world and maybe the highbrow church music world, in some traditions, you might get a little flack for even talking about the word appeal. Does it appeal to people? But I will reiterate a principle that I strongly believe in. Different music speaks to different people. If we are picking music that does not appeal to those in our congregation all the time, then what purpose is the music serving in our worship? So that is something to consider as well. Does it have appeal? It doesn't necessarily even have to have broad appeal, but does it appeal to some people? And are you picking a variety of music that is going to appeal to different groups of people within your congregation? Now, as I said before, not every piece needs to fit perfectly within each of these categories, but each piece should have overlap with each of these categories. So in selecting music, one of your biggest questions might be, where do I even look for music? With the internet, you can quickly look up a variety of music and you can make selections in that way. There are websites that have music for free that you can download. IMSLP and CPTL have an array of public domain music that is free to use. There's also people out there who are writing for free. There's also a myriad of different music publishers that you can use and that you can pick from. And within church music, you'll notice that some publishers lean towards certain traditions a little more than others, but there is a lot of crossover, I find, with anthems that you can find across the different publishers that work for a variety of different contexts. But again, I'm going to repeat what I said earlier, and that is that just because something is free does not mean that it is good music. And just because you pay for it does not make it good music either. So you have to really, again, discern what that good music is. And a lot of that comes from listening to good music yourself and listening to a lot of music so that you can figure out what your ear says is good and what is not. Now, this approach to music selection may vary depending on the size of your choir and how active they are currently. But if you don't really know what to expect with your choir yet, I would plan for your first rehearsal, bringing 5 or 6 pieces of music for your first rehearsal and sing through them. These pieces should vary in difficulty, level, style, voicing, etc. I would pick a simple unison hymn where everybody is just singing the melody, a 4-part hymn. And then I would pick a few different choral arrangements or octavos that the choir would likely be familiar with, maybe titles that they might recognize, but in a different arrangement, and sing through those on the first rehearsal and just assess where things are at so that you get a good idea. Okay, so next, we are going to talk about personal preparation. Before you step foot into the rehearsal room, it is essential that you are personally prepared for your first rehearsal. Now, what does that look like? Well, it might look like something different for each person, but a general rule of thumb is that the conductor should be the most knowledgeable person in the room about the specific pieces of music that you're going to be rehearsing. So here are some thoughts on preparing music for your first rehearsal. Number 1, before you start learning the music, look up some historical background on the piece. Who wrote the music and the text? Who arranged it? Was the piece or the arrangement written for anything specific? Are there any stylistic characteristics that you need to consider when preparing this music? Number 2, if you have the piano skills to play through the piece, play through it a couple times. Also, and this is highly encouraged, sing through the piece a few times, maybe multiple times. Go through and practice singing all the voice parts. You can do this in your own octave, but really get to know the music. Number 3, mark your score with pencil, I might add. If you put anything in pen, that means that it's much more difficult to change, so always use pencil. But in your score, you're going to mark entrances, cutoffs, dynamics. In a forthcoming episode, I'm going to take you through a process that will help you prepare and get to know your score well. So look out for that coming very soon. 4, think about pronunciations of words, and particularly vowels. With a choir, one of the quickest ways to help them sing in tune is to get their vowels to all align. Make sure everybody is singing the same vowel sound. Now, if you want to get some ideas of what that can sound like, go and look up a variety of different choirs on YouTube and listen to those different choirs and get an idea of what your choral soundscape is. What sound do you like coming from different choirs? What choirs do you like, and how do they produce that sound? In your music, write cues in there to help you remember how you want to pronounce things as well, so that you can teach that the same way every time. And fifth, practice the actual conducting of the music. Go to your bathroom mirror or another large mirror, have your score in hand, and practice your conducting. Can you bring the choir in clearly and cut them off clearly? Do you look like the music? Your choir will respond to your conducting gesture, so you want to make sure that you're communicating visually to them what sound you want them to make. Personal preparation takes a lot of time on its own, but if done well, it will help you be successful. If you're really in over your head, try reaching out to someone who's an experienced conductor or seek out private lessons, which is probably the best way to learn anyway. The Practical Church Musician Podcast is brought to you today by the Practical Church Musician Podcast. That's right, no fancy sponsor, no mystery promo code, just me, the host, Dr. Sam Fleming, talking to you about the show. Look, here's the thing. Making a podcast about practical church music is, itself, a fairly impractical use of time. So, if you've made it this far, you're clearly the kind of person who appreciates that irony, and the kind of person who'd probably enjoy subscribing. So here's the ask. Hit follow, hit subscribe, whatever your podcast app calls it. It's free. It takes 4 seconds, and unlike most church volunteers, it requires zero training and no awkward conversation with your music director about why you missed last week. I'll keep making the episodes. You just have to tap one button. That's the whole sponsorship deal. And if you're feeling really generous, leave the show a review. Now, this has been an ad for the thing you're already listening to, so let's get back to the show. As you are preparing for your first choir rehearsal, you need to consider, what does a choir rehearsal even look like? To begin, I will admonish you to prepare for your rehearsals ahead of time. The quickest way to gain and keep singers in your choir, or the quickest way to lose them, is the efficiency of your choir rehearsal. This is a skill that will take a lot of practice. But over time, you will develop an ear for detecting errors, such as the singing of wrong pitches, cutoffs that are not together, a chord that is out of tune, etc. That all being said, the more time you spend singing and the less time you spend talking during a rehearsal, whatever the length of rehearsal, the more your singers will feel like you are gaining something from the choir experience. As a general rule of thumb, I strive for a rehearsal with 90% singing and 10% talking. So that means in a 60-minute rehearsal, you are singing for 54 of those minutes and only giving instruction for 6 of those minutes. It is not easy to do at first, but I really do encourage you to practice and work on getting better at that. Along those same lines, think of this principle. Singers check out the second that their conductor talks too long. So the first principle of a good rehearsal is to give a simple instruction and then sing. And rinse and repeat. Do that over and over. Now, one of the ways to improve your singing to talking ratio is to record your rehearsals. You can do audio or video. I encourage video, actually, because then you can see what's going on visually as well. So record a rehearsal, then go back home and listen to it. Write down how many minutes you spent talking, how many minutes your choir members spent talking, how many minutes you spent singing, and how many minutes your choir spent singing. This is the best way to improve the singing to talking ratio, and it will help you come to a rehearsal with a plan. So in this plan for each rehearsal, you need to write down what you want to accomplish. And you need to assign each song in the lesson plan a time. For example, 9:35 a.m., Come Thou Fount. 9:43 a.m., God So Loved the World, and so forth. And even more so, especially as you're beginning, Plan down to the minute what you're going to do. Now, this means writing down what teaching tools you will use specifically to accomplish your target goal in that time frame. So this might look like 9:35 to 9:36. Speak the text of verse 1 in rhythm. 9:36. Fix vowels and cutoffs. 9:37 to 9:39. Sopranos and altos on do, then on text. 9:39 to 9:41. Tenors and basses on do, then text. 9:41 to 9:43. All parts on text. Shape the phrases. Now, when you plan down to this minute, you're going to find that things are not going to go exactly as planned most of the time. But the point is that you have a plan so that if you ever get into a moment that you don't know what to do, you just have to look at your plan. Another tip with your rehearsal plan is to share it with your pianist ahead of time, or at least the songs that you'll be working on each week. As an accompanist, I always appreciate knowing ahead of time what music we'll be working on. Lastly, overplan your time with at least one additional song with the knowledge that you will likely not get to it, but always just have more things planned than what you can get to in your rehearsal time. Now, a word on warm-ups. My recommendation with warm-ups is that you do not do warm-ups unless they have a specific goal you are trying to accomplish. Do not do warm-ups just for warm-up's sakes. If you aren't sure what the purpose of any exercise is, do not do it. Just don't do it. It will not help you or your choir. And in many cases, choirs will learn more by having a challenging and rigorous rehearsal that is well prepared with the music that you're working on versus doing warm-ups that don't accomplish anything specific. Warm-ups are not bad though. I use warm-ups in my rehearsals. But they have to be used with intentionality, and you have to know what you are trying to accomplish with that warm-up. So I've mentioned a couple times now using a variety of teaching techniques in the rehearsal. So here are some examples of those to help you get started. Now there are way more than these examples, but these are some ones that I like to use. Example number 1. This is called modeling, and this is where the conductor sings a phrase, and then the choir repeats the phrase. This is your best friend, especially if you have members of your choir who don't read music. The more you sing and have the choir repeat in small segments, the quicker they will learn. Always do things in small phrases, such as, "Come thou fount of every blessing." Okay, everybody, repeat. "Come thou fount of every blessing." And then I go, "Tune my heart to sing thy grace." And then they repeat, "Tune thy heart to sing thy grace," etc. And when you're learning pitches, repeat at least 3 times. Or if it's a new melody or something, don't move on until you are really convinced that the choir has that part that you're working on. Small segments of repetition are crucial, and people will remember them if they repeat them multiple times. Idea number 3. Sing the melody on do when first learning. Do, 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 do. That takes the text out of the picture and just allows you to focus on learning the notes. Speak the words and rhythm of the music without pitches. "Come thou fount of every blessing." Right? Next idea. One half of the room sings half of the phrase. The other half of the room sings the other half of the phrase. Again, just ways to learn the piece of music that you're doing. This works for melody, and this also works for singing in harmony as well. Practice singing at different dynamic levels. Regardless of what the dynamics are in the score, sing at different dynamic levels. Use the scale of 1 to 10 for dynamics. Also use it for choral tone. I like to say, okay, start out by singing like you're in kindergarten. Then move on to junior high, to high school, opera, chorus, etc. It allows them to explore the choral tone and vowel placement and a lot of different things without having to get overly technical with it. Next, sing only on vowels. Make sure everyone's vowels match. O, out, a. Lastly, count sing. 3 and 1 and 2 and 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 This is a great technique that was coined by the famous conductor Robert Shaw, and it's a great way to instill rhythmic vitality and make sure that everybody is together and knows exactly when to cut off and everything. I do a lot of count singing with my choirs. Again, repeat in small sections everything you do. Repeat, repeat, repeat. You can never repeat enough. If you're not sure what to do next in your rehearsal, repeat something, and then maybe that will spark an idea of what to do next. As you get closer to a performance, you will start to run larger sections of the piece, but you are always working with a kind but critical ear to help everyone improve. The Practical Church Musician Podcast is brought to you today by the Practical Church Musician Podcast. That's right, no fancy sponsor, no mystery promo code, just me, the host, Dr. Sam Fleming, talking to you about the show. Look, here's the thing. Making a podcast about practical church music is, itself, a fairly impractical use of time. So, if you've made it this far, you're clearly the kind of person who appreciates that irony, and the kind of person who'd probably enjoy subscribing. So here's the ask. Hit follow, hit subscribe, whatever your podcast app calls it. It's free. It takes 4 seconds, and unlike most church volunteers, it requires 0 training and no awkward conversation with your music director about why you missed last week. I'll keep making the episodes. You just have to tap one button. That's the whole sponsorship deal. And if you're feeling really generous, leave the show a review. Now, this has been an ad for the thing you're already listening to, so let's get back to the show. So after your first rehearsal is done, take a few minutes while everything is fresh in your mind of what happened, and write down what you accomplished and what you want to accomplish next time. Circle things in your music, make notes. Sometimes I use sticky notes and place them at certain spots in the score, but do it as quickly after the rehearsal as possible so that everything is as fresh in your mind as possible. Now, a few concluding thoughts as we wrap up today's episode. Number 1, you want to handle people with grace. Treat them with care. This is church choir after all, and we want to treat people the way that we would want to be treated, right? And we want to treat people in the way that we learn to treat others in church and in life, really, too. Number 2, follow up with those who did not show up. Let them know they were missed and what you worked on. Send them a text, give them a brief phone call or an email. Just do something to let them know that they were missed and that you care about them and that you want them there. Number 3, I highly encourage you to go visit a choir rehearsal with an accomplished conductor. Or even better, join a choir, a community choir or some other choir that maybe isn't even a church choir in your area. You will learn a lot by singing in a choir and paying attention to what the conductor does in rehearsals. Take notes as much as you can and go see what you can learn. Number 4, the more time you put into developing these skills, the more you will get out of them, and the more that it will serve you and your choir. Practice, practice, practice. Lastly, if you are new to this, don't be overwhelmed. Start with 1 or 2 of these principles and constantly strive to improve on them and add additional things to your tool belt. Music is a lifelong learning experience, so find joy in the journey and look at how you can improve your skills and use it to help your choir and to help yourself and to have a great experience along the way. Now, if you found today's episode helpful, I hope that you will like, follow, share, and subscribe on your favorite podcast platform to help spread the word. And be sure to find us on Instagram or at our website, thepracticalchurchmusician.com. As we wrap up episode 5, I invite you to join me next time as we explore another topic in the treasure trove of topics related to church music and service as a church musician. Until next time, keep singing, keep playing, keep practicing, and keep moving forward.